welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zakka Jacob. The Election Commission finally has woken up and barred any kind of victory rally or victory procession celebration on the 2nd of May, which happens to be counting day. This is after the Madras High Court yesterday wrapped the EC in its knuckles and said that the Election Commission was singularly responsible for the current COVID surge. The court even said it is so bad that the EC should be slapped with murder charges. Is this rearguard action by the Election Commission too little too late? After all, most of the election process is complete barring one phase in Bengal on Thursday. Should the Election Commission have acted much earlier and clamped down on these mammoth road shows and rallies? But first, the story.
Over the past 7 years, from being an independent institution, constitutionally insulated, it has gone to becoming an instrument of command performance.
So amid a steady rise in COVID-19 cases across the country because of the second wave, the EC has now banned all victory processions on the 2nd of May, both during the counting process and after the results are declared. Now, this comes right after the Madras High Court wrapped the EC for bringing about the second wave by allowing political rallies. The poll panel maintains that strict COVID protocols were issued for the Bihar polls despite a decline in cases. That happened the latter part of last year. The EC also clarified that they are placing restrictions on campaigning in Bengal even before various states came up and imposed lockdowns. Joining us on the talking point, Shama Mohammed, Congress spokesperson, Aparajita Sarangi is Member of Parliament of the BJP and spokesperson, T.S. Krishnamurthy is former Chief Election Commissioner of India, and Sanjay Kumar, Professor with CSDS. I'll start with you, Mr. Krishnamurthy, as a former CEC. Many are saying, is this too little too late by the Election Commission a day after the rather scathing observations by the Madras High Court? What will clamping down on victory celebrations now do to help rein back COVID? They should have done this a long time ago.
Whatever you do in the Election Commission, it will always be subject to some criticism by one person or the other. We are quite used to it. Well, I agree that probably some other steps could have been taken. It is not that it could not have been taken. But then if you say ban the rally, you say that it's too little and too late and so on. So Election Commission has certain limitations. For example, even if the Election Commission were to regulate the rallies, suppose they say that you are not wearing a mask, what could they have done? They have only filed an FIR. Is that all that you want from the Election Commission? I think the state police should have taken action against these people who have not been wearing the mask or maintaining the social distance. I'm surprised that the Election Commission is subject to so much of criticism when the responsibility for maintaining law and order in the state belongs to that of the state. The Election Commission is concerned with the conduct of elections. But if the hundreds and thousands of people come in a rally, and if somebody violating the COVID norms, will the Election Commission go and file a complaint against each one of them?
But sir, these rallies, these processions,
it is the state's responsibility to maintain law and order.
Sir, these rallies and processions are held by political parties or by individual candidates. Couldn't the Election Commission have put pressure on political parties or candidates to say that the next time you have a rally with 500 people or 1,000 people or tens of thousands of people, we will, debar you from holding such rallies, or that you should move to digital or virtual rallies. Surely the Election Commission could have done that with political parties.
Yes, certainly the Election Commission could have done, no doubt about it. They could have called them and told them that we can ban the rallies. But then what will happen? In a surcharged atmosphere, they will go to the court and say that the right to campaign has been affected by the Election Commission. Election Commission has a very difficult task to pay. And if they had totally banned it, I'm sure they would have gone to the court and said, we have not been permitted to campaign for the elections.
Okay.
So it is a very delicate task. I agree, they could have called them and told them that we are going to ban them. In fact, I have held the view that after the fourth phase of the election in West Bengal was over, the Election Commission could have certainly banned the public rallies. But then I'm sure they had their own constraints. They might have had the reports what action is to be taken. I cannot obviously sit in judgment without
Sure.
facts with me.
No doubt, no doubt about it.
They could have regulated the campaigns.
Okay, let me ask Aparajita Sarangi. One of the things consistently in Bengal, and even the EC had called for many multi-party meetings on this. One of the things that was suggested was to club phases 6, 7 and 8 in West Bengal. But the BJP seemed to be not so keen in doing that. Had that been clubbed, at least some of this corona damage could have been taken care of?
Now, let me tell you, when the elections are held by the Election Commission of India, they are held as per the guidelines under the Constitution. It's a constitutional body. It has to follow the provisions of the Constitution. Now, let us understand two things. Number one, the Election Commission of India cannot postpone an election. There cannot be a vacuum. As per the Constitution, there cannot be a vacuum after a state government completes its term. So the question of postponing the election does not arise. This is one part. And number two part is the clubbing part. Now here also, suddenly, while half of the elections have been held, half of the polling dates have gone, we say that the last 3-4 should be clubbed. Here also, the constitutional provisions do not actually allow. Now you will ask me how and why. See, the practicality of the whole thing has to be understood, has to be comprehended by all of us. We have to be rational when we actually suggest something. It's not possible to club suddenly when you are halfway through, because, every candidate has to have a certain number of days for canvassing. So if he or she files the nomination, he or she needs to have a certain number of days. So you just cannot club also.
Sir, ma'am, is that more important, or is saving lives more important?
No, I certainly agree. There is absolutely,
surely life has to be paramount.
No, absolutely right. I fully agree. In fact, we are all human beings and we know what's happening in the country. So we are all aware of the fact. But then, let me tell you very clearly, very candidly, emphatically, and absolutely no prejudice at all. See, when the Election Commission decided on the dates, it did it after consulting the parties. Now, when the dates were decided, at that point of time, nobody knew that the second wave would be so big, so huge, and so bad. See, we knew second wave was coming. We can't say the second wave was not coming. Alerts had been issued to the states, also with the central government. But we did not know it would be so big, so huge. So I think Election Commission of India, as has been told by my predecessor, the person who spoke right before me, he rightly said, he used a very good word, delicate. Election Commission's role is very delicate, and they have certain limitations which we have to understand.
No, but that may well be the case. That may well be the case. Nobody was arguing for postponing the elections. The question was, could these rallies have been curbed, and B, could these remaining phases have been merged together to have one phase? Logic doesn't stand in the face of people dying. Anyway, let me go to Shama Mohammed and ask her that, while all the focus has been on Bengal, while all the focus has been post the second wave hitting us, surely, your leader was also campaigning in Tamil Nadu and in Kerala. There were multiple rallies and roadshows. In fact, in Kerala, right after the polling day got over, the chief minister also fell prey to COVID, as in like he contracted COVID, and so did your former chief minister of the Congress party. So clearly it shows that those election rallies were one of the big catalysts, one of the big super spreaders for corona in those states.
Zakka, you must give me some time because I listen to everybody. Now you need to give me my time. I want to reply first to the election commissioner, former election commissioner. He said, it is not the fault of the election commission. I remember before the Bihar elections, the Congress party was very much against the Bihar elections happening at that point of time. And a senior election commissioner, I'm not going to name him, he said, no, Western countries are happening, so it can happen in India. But I said, India is not Western countries. There are people who are not as literate over here as over there, and there are many poor people. When a campaign happens, everybody is going to come in and they're not going to listen to the norms, number one. Number two, just now Ms. Sarangi said, uh, there are certain norms, we have to follow it. I just felt the same thing what you felt, Zakka. Our life's more important. Now, let's not forget that Bengal has a total of 294 seats and Tamil Nadu has 235 seats. Why did the Election Commission make it 8 phases? Okay, there is a law and order problem, I agree, in Bengal, but you can make it in 3 phases. Why did the Election Commission not curtail it into 3 phases? It could have. On April 10th, the Election Commission flagged that many of the leaders as well as star campaigners were not wearing mouth masks. What action did it take against these leaders and star campaigners? Nothing. Very important point. Let's not forget. Not only let's not just blame the Election Commission, but we should blame the central government. I'll tell you why. The National Disaster Management Act is on. And Section 35 of the National Disaster Management Act, according to it, last year they constituted 6 interministerial committees. These committees are supposed to be going to various states and checking out if COVID protocol is being followed. In the COVID protocol, one of the most important is violation of social distancing. They could have come and spoken to the Home Minister and saying, you know what, in these campaigns, there is violation of social distancing. We need to do something about it.
Okay.
The Home Minister has the right to call the Election Commissioner and say, no more rallies, let's go for virtual rallies.
No, but had he done that, you would have still complained, saying, the integrity and the independence of the EC is being compromised. No, anyway, leave that aside. Let me go to Professor Sanjay Kumar. 1 second. No, I'll take the point that Shama is making about everything in today's day and age is going digital, sir. And I think if I remember correctly, even in the Bihar elections, a good number of rallies happened to be digital or virtual. And our political parties learn and adapt. Today, much of our statements are happening on Twitter. Political leaders are making statements on Twitter. So why not have virtual or digital rallies?
No, there's no harm in having virtual and digital rallies, but I am not in favor of putting a complete ban on the real rallies where people come on the ground and leaders speak. I know that when election schedule was announced, nobody anticipated such a massive second wave of corona. But I would agree that there was no need for holding elections in 8 phases. Election Commission should have been alert right at the beginning. Yes, there is a law and order issue, and that is why Election Commission planned for an 8 phases election. But what is the logic of having the election in 8 phases and not having the election in 4 phases? Imagine a situation, Zakka, if election in West Bengal was held in only 4 phases, at least the election would have been concluded before the worst situation had arrived. So I think there are questions to be asked to the Election Commission about this social distancing norm. Yes, I agree that Election Commission cannot ensure that social distancing would be maintained when you have such a large crowd. But at least Election Commission should have issued instructions to the leaders who were not following the basic minimum requirement, which is wearing masks when you are meeting the people, when you are on the stage along with large number of people. So nobody who prevented Election Commission from issuing such instructions to these leaders. And there are lots and lots of images when these big leaders, the so-called star campaigner of different political parties, are addressing big rallies without even wearing the mask.
Yeah. No, but on the constitutional question that Ms. Sarangi raised, and clarify on this for us, Professor Kumar, Election Commission cannot, at least in normal circumstances, cannot advance the date of expiry of a particular assembly. So if, for example, the Kerala Assembly session expires middle of May or Tamil Nadu Assembly session expires by middle of May, they can't extend it to June or December unless there is President's rule invoked. Again, had they recommended for President's rule, there would have been again an equal political furor by the opposition party saying, why are you imposing President's rule. So what could they have done in the interim in a way that they could have dealt with this problem of corona, because it's right now. Hopefully in, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, we will get over this second wave.
No, Zakka, there was lack of initiative from Election Commission. I'm not saying that Election Commission should have issued an instruction that all the remaining three phases, say phase 6, 7, 8, will be bundled together. At least they should have called an all-party meeting. All the parties which were contesting the West Bengal election, they should have discussed with the political parties, and then they would have issued a statement that political parties do not agree to that or political parties agree to that. But tell me what was the initiative taken by Election Commission to at least move in this direction. Nobody argued that election should have been postponed. Election could not have been postponed because the election process was on. But I think there was a way to figure out how to minimize the campaign days and how to minimize the long 8 phases poll, even when we were in the middle of the election.
In fact,
Election
if I
Commission should
remember,
have made some initiative.
if I remember correctly, a
come
few
in,
weeks
Zakka?
back. One second, ma'am. If I remember correctly, a few weeks back, the Election Commission did have a meeting in which the TMC was very keen that the remaining phases 6, 7, and 8 be clubbed, whereas the BJP was not so keen. Eventually, of course, the Election Commission deciding not to club those phases. But Mr. Krishnamurthy, please respond, sir. Nobody is saying that the Election Commission should have taken suo motu cognizance and completely banned these rallies and so on and so forth. But there is still an immense lot that the Election Commission could have done. Like, for example, I'm reasonably sure, given the pattern of corona in other parts of the country, after May 2nd, you will see an explosion in Bengal. It's inevitable. Mr. Krishnamurthy.
I didn't hear your question. Will you please repeat?
No,
So there was
my
a-
question is, sir, even within its limited powers, there is still so much that the Election Commission could have done, like penalizing candidates, penalizing political parties, putting curbs on the number of people who attend, or if there is violations, asking for penal action to be taken, so on and so forth. And most importantly, this clubbing of phases, especially when there were certain political parties who were asking for the clubbing of phases.
No, you see, in the midstream of the election, it is not possible to club unless you club all the remaining phases into last phase, because you cannot prepone a phase of the election. You can certainly postpone the phase of the election. Under the notification issue, you have a right to postpone the certain phases into the last phase. But that would have probably aggravated the issue. I do not know the judgment of the Election Commission. But all that, this election has taught us certain lessons, no doubt about it. I think the multi-phased elections were mainly designed to avoid unnecessary violence, unnecessary problems for the political parties. But now that this 8-phased election has taught something, that it is not worthwhile to have too many phases.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the Election Commission should take a lesson from this experience and see whether the number of phases could be reduced. Of course, it would require a lot of deployment of central paramilitary forces, but it is maybe necessary, because I personally feel that it is better to have a single or 2-phase elections rather than to have long-phase elections, creating so much of opportunities for hatred, violence, and of course the COVID spread that you have now.
Okay.
So this has taught a lesson. I said, I'm sure that Election Commission will ponder about having too many multi-phase elections.
All right, Shama.
Secondly, I think
Zakka, just
the
one
Election
point.
Commission should have
You
some
asked-
power to disqualify the voters, because the model code of conduct is only a model code. It has no law, statutory backing. The only thing they could have done is to withdraw a symbol of the party.
Okay.
There would have been too much of an extreme measure that would have been taken. What they could be given, in my opinion,
Zakka.
certain measures to enable the Election Commission to suspend
Okay,
voter,
a particular
or to
candidate.
suspend a candidate,
Got it.
depending upon
Zakka,
certain
You asked
happening.
me
Okay.
about Rahul Gandhi.
Yeah,
You asked me
Shama
about
Mohammed,
Rahul
yeah.
Gandhi.
Yeah, that was my
Rahul
question. You
Gandhi
didn't
vote-
answer it though.
Yeah, that's why, because you went to the next candidate. So the next person who spoke. So Rahul Gandhi, in fact, I have campaigned also in Kerala. Let me tell you, he never removes his mouth mask, only when he speaks. Number one. Number two, when this issue happened, I remember even before Bihar elections, he was not keen for Bihar elections to happen. We have spoken on that. And during this time, when he's the first one who withdrew and said that we are not going to campaign, he wrote to the Election Commission.
No, ma'am,
"Please stop
by
this."
that time, the states that you have a stake in were all over. Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Assam were all over. In Bengal, where you have very limited stake, after attending one rally to say, I'm not going to campaign further,
but
does not make
Well,
any
you can't
sense.
just
It's
blame it
expediency.
On Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party, must put the onus on the BJP.
No,
where
of course,
Himanta
of course,
Biswas
the
has
onus
said-
is, of course, the
Himanta
onus,
Biswas has
of
said
course,
that
the
it is
onus is on the BJP. So, Aparajita
He said
Sarangi,
that.
final
Did
word,
they-
30 seconds.
Did they-
I think it's
did they-
clear the party that did not want to club phases, the party that wanted to extend for 8 phases, and the party that was keen on the Bengal polls going on as per schedule is your party. So, kindly explain, ma'am.
And
Now,
he
I'll
should
be
also
very
explain what Himanta
clearly
Biswas
telling all of
has
you
said.
that as far as the
He said
Bharatiya
no
Janata
to
Party is
the-
concerned, is bound by the dictates of the Election Commission of India. Whatever the direction of the Election Commission, we would be going by those. Now, here, let me tell you, that there are four players. One, all the political parties, one category. Number two, election commission. Number three, the central government. And number four, the state government. Now, what's the role of all these four categories of institutions? ECI has to issue the guidelines, right? So the guidelines that have been issued have gone through most of the guidelines for the elections, and all the guidelines have categorically stated that all are bound by the directives of the election commission, and the directives are that all the COVID appropriate behavior norms have to be followed. This has been mentioned in most of the letters.
But where was it being followed, ma'am? Where was it being followed? No, I got to wrap up. I'm getting a piece of breaking news. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, for joining us. I'm getting a piece of breaking news. It's really sad that this is what it's come down to. But this piece of breaking news, corona-related, coming in from Maharashtra. The health minister there has said that the Serum Institute, SII, which manufactures Covishield, has informed the Maharashtra government that it can only supply Covishield vaccines starting or beyond the 20th of May, which means from the 1st of May, the Saturday, when universal vaccination opens up, Maharashtra will not have vaccines for 18 plus. Vinaya has more details. Vinaya, so people will have to wait 20 days in Maharashtra if they're between 18 and 45 to get vaccinated.
Well, absolutely, because Maharashtra has written letters to both these companies, Serum as well as Bharat Biotech, seeking more vaccines. Clearly, Bharat Biotech has not yet responded. Serum has said they're booked till the 20th of May. At a time when Maharashtra is already facing glitches with the current vaccination program, it has kept on saying that while it has the capacity of vaccinating at least 8 lakh people, all it can do in a day is almost 3 lakh because of the lack of vaccines. So even for the age group of 45 plus, the vaccination program is not on track because we don't have enough vaccines. The fact that from 1st of May, it is going to open up for the age group of 18 to 44, things do not look good for Maharashtra. It does not look like, as of now, that the vaccination program will roll out smoothly for that age group. That is why Maharashtra Health Minister has also appealed to people now to not crowd at vaccination centers, especially those between 18 to 44, and only those who have been able to register on app and get an appointment should go to vaccination centers.
What about the ones above 45 who've taken their first shot but are due to get their second shot? Is there enough vaccines for them?
Priority, the state government says, will be given to them for their second vaccine. As of now, all the stock that the government is getting, it is trying to make sure that at least those who have their second shot lined up will get it on priority basis. But even for that, as I said, there aren't enough vaccines, and that is why the state government will need additional supply from the center till the time the glitches in supply from private manufacturers fills up.
All right, Vinay, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this plays out. I think 3 states have now said they're not in a position to start vaccinating universally from the 1st of May, including Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Assam. Meanwhile, let's round off with some positive stories amid all this doom and gloom. Some do-gooders, some people who are going out of their way to make things slightly better, contributing their 2 bits. The ISKCON temple is making sure that no COVID-positive patient goes hungry amidst this ongoing crisis. The ISKCON temple in Delhi is delivering food packets to over 14,000 COVID-positive patients across the city. Nutritious food is being prepared every single day and home-delivered to people who cannot cook for themselves. Thousands of patients in South Delhi and in West Delhi have benefited from ISKCON temple's initiative.
कोरोना के दूसरी वेव से पूरा देश परेशान है और सबसे ज़्यादा परेशान है वो लोग जो इसके मरीज हैं। एक सोशल स्टिग्मा भी कोविड पेशेंट्स के साथ जुड़ा हुआ नजर आता है। ऐसे में इस वक्त हम मौजूद हैं इस्कॉन द्वारका में, जहां आप देख रहे हैं कि खाने की ये तमाम प्लेट्स लगी हुई हैं, जिसमें रोटी, चावल, दाल, सब्जी जैसी जो न्यूट्रिशियस खाना है उसको फिलहाल पैक किया जा रहा है।
हम सब जो है लगे हुए हैं और कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि पूरे दिल्ली में जो भी कोविड पेशेंट और जिनको इस भोजन की जरूरत है, हम उनको जो है घर पर डिलीवरी कर सकें।
किचन में खाना बनता है, ये तमाम प्लेट्स यहाँ लगाई जाती है जिनमें खाना पैक किया जाता है और इसके बाद सर्विसेज करने के लिए तमाम ऑटो या जो ई रिक्शा है उनका सहारा लिया जाता है। जो कोविड पेशेंट्स हैं उनके घर के बाहर तक खाना रखा जाता है ताकि लोग अपना खाना खा सकें। अगर कोई गर्भवती महिला है या कोई और जरूरतमंद है या सीनियर सिटीजन्स है, वो भी एक कॉल के जरिए यहाँ से अपने घर तक खाना या प्रसाद जिसे कहा जाता है वो ले जा सकते हैं।
Meanwhile, this is a story of hope and belief in these trying times. A 90-year-old woman who was admitted to hospital for COVID defeated the virus after being treated for 14 days. Now, 2 months after her victorious battle, she successfully completed a trek along with her grandsons, climbing over 3,000 feet, the Korai Fort in Lonavala. All right, just getting more breaking news. Jabs for all starting May 1. The vaccination registration will begin on the CoWIN portal starting 4 p.m. tomorrow for all 18 plus. So in case you are above the age of 18 and if you're interested in getting the vaccine, please go to the CoWIN portal, which will be open for public use from 4 p.m. tomorrow. The vaccination will begin from the 1st of May, this coming Saturday. Of course, we have to add the caveat in those states and in those centers where the vaccine is available. Runjun Sharma now joining us with more details. So from tomorrow, 4 o'clock, the portal will open. Is that right?
Yes, Zakka, from tomorrow, which is 28th, the CoWIN portal will open and all the beneficiaries now, which is everybody above the age of 18, the entire adult population in the country can register themselves. And of course, the inoculations are starting from May 1st. So the platform they're opening up for people. The center has already instructed states to make sure that slots on the COVID platform are available for the beneficiaries. And remember, this is going to be a huge population, Zakka, that we're talking about, and which is why the government is making it very clear that this time over for the third phase, for people above the age of 18 and below the age of 45, there will be no walk-ins whatsoever, only registration through the CoWIN platform.
We'll leave it at that. Thanks very much, Runjun, for joining us. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again at 9 o'clock with Brass Tacks. Thanks for your time.